Hello and welcome to this video where we are going to go over the automated PTE scoring mechanism for the essay part of the exam, and we're also going to later cover the scoring parameters so you know how you are scored. So I'm going to explain the framework of the system that Pearson uses so you understand how how it works, and this is based on publications that Pearson have on their websites. Okay, so Pearson uses an IEA tool which is called an intelligent essay assessor, and within that there's a technology called latent semantic analysis. Now, what does that actually mean for us? So what this does is it basically checks how similar words are in meaning to a sample response. Okay, now how the essay section of the exam works in the PT academic is that for every essay that Pearson releases as a question type, it they you have around 20 to 30 sample responses that students give a response on, and then you have human assessors that kind of assess those essays, and they give a score of content for those sample essays. Okay, so for every essay you have around 30 people maybe taking those essays, and then you have assessors, human assessors, who rate those essays on content. So once you have that data, Pearson then knows, okay, for the essays that are rated highly on content, what are the kind of vocabularies that they use, what are the keywords that they use, and they are basically comparing your essay with to see the scanning the vocabulary in your essay to see how closely does it relate to those highly rated essays when it comes to vocabulary and content. Okay, so that's kind of how you are scored. So obviously a person who is getting high on content will talk about items that are related to the content. So as long as you are sticking to the content as well, you will score high on content. Okay, and this tool also has a capability to check synonyms. So for example, if I say a sentence, I am moving to Australia soon, or if I take a sentence saying I will be migrating to Australia shortly, now Pearson can recognize that both those sentences mean the same thing. So basically it can tell you that soon and shortly is kind of same, and moving and migrating means the same thing in this context. Okay, so that is kind of how it works, and it can also detect if you go off topic. So for example, if the topic is about conservation of nature, and if you are writing about how tasty your mom's food is, then Pearson is going to know that you're talking about another topic. So just keep that in mind. And how you can use this to your advantage is that use synonyms in your essay and use words similar to the topic sentence. Now, this particular tool, the intelligent essay assessor that they use, it looks at two things. It assesses two things. One is the meaning of your response. So it compares it. The comparison is based on training response. So I explained that system where you have those sample responses and you have highly rated essays. So the meaning, your content is compared to that, and they kind of see how you are doing. Whereas the other mechanical aspects of your writing, such as your grammar, your vocabulary, your spelling, all of those aspects, the system recognizes independently of those training responses. So only the content part is coming from those training responses. The other mechanical aspects of your essay are based on your is assessed individually. And this is where if you have a really good template that takes care of all those mechanical aspects of your writing, you can really do well with the exam. Cool. So that is how a short glance of how the scoring mechanism works. We'll get into the scoring parameters for the essay. So you have around 7 scoring parameters. Before that, I just wanted to share something quickly with you. I know a lot of you are taking this exam because you want your Australian PR, and that's the reason why I took the exam as well. So this is an Australian finger lime. Yeah, it's something interesting. I just thought I'd share with you. I never seen this before until I moved to Australia. That's kind of what it looks like. It tastes like lime. Yeah, it's kind of like if you tasted a grapefruit and if you tasted a lime, it's kind of in between that. Yeah, so this is something to look forward to for those of you who are taking this for an Australian PR. All right, coming back to the PTE academic and the essay part and the scoring parameters. So the there are three parts to English in the written language. Okay, so you have level 1, level 2, level 3. So basically level 1 is your base foundation, which is individual words, and then if you put together words, you get phrases or sentences, and then when you connect phrases and sentences together, you come up with paragraphs. Okay, and Pearson is scoring you on each of those 3 levels, and these are the 7 parameters that they score you on: content, formal requirement, development, structure and coherence, grammar, general linguistic range, vocabulary range, spelling. So you're scored on 7 parameters, and they all relate to those 3 levels that I talked about. Now let's get into details. I have a separate PDF that I'll go over. Let's get into details of these 7 parameters and see what exactly is Pearson looking for. Now, when it comes to content, by the way, this document is available for free. There'll be a link in the description where you can download this. On content, you get 3 if you adequately deal with the prompt. So as long as you are covering all the topics mentioned in the essay topic, you should be good. Okay, so normally when you get an essay in the exam, it's not just like one sentence. It's usually 2 or 3 sentences, and there are many different things that they ask you to cover. So your job when you first encounter this question type is to read the question really carefully and ensure that in your points that you're going to cover in the essay, you're including whatever they're asking you to cover. For example, if they're asking you to talk about the disadvantages of television, make sure your points include disadvantages of television. Okay, so just read the prompt really carefully and understand what are they after. The next one is form. Now, form, you're scored on a scale of 0 to 2. 2 is if your essay is between 200 to 300 words. So that's fairly straightforward. Make sure that your essay is between 200 to 300 words. Now, I generally recommend trying to be on the lower end of that spectrum. So if you're aiming for anywhere between 220 to 230 words, you're good. The reason being is that you do not get any extra marks in the exam for writing a longer essay. In fact, the longer that you write your essay, the more chances of you making grammatical errors and any other types of errors. So by sticking to the shorter end of the spectrum, you allow for more time for you to plan out your essay, check your essay for any errors. So that's why I always recommend sticking to the shorter end of that spectrum. The next one, development, structure and coherence. This is you show good development and logical structure. So this is how well are your sentences connected to each other. Okay, so if you're using a good template, that this basically takes care of it. But if you're writing your own essay without a template, here's a checklist of things that your essay should kind of have for you to score well in this. I'll just go over maybe one in each. So in the introduction, does the main opinion fulfill the requirement of the task? Does the essay have a clearly stated main opinion? In the body, are the paragraphs logically ordered? Are ideas presented in a way that is clear and easy to follow? In the conclusion, does the conclusion clearly restate the essay's main opinion or argument? So these are some key things that you should be having in your essay as well, okay, for you to score well in development, structure and coherence. Moving on to grammar. So on grammar, you're scored on a scale of 0 to 2. Now, if you have maybe 1 or 2 errors in your essay, then you're not going to do, you're probably going to get 2 out of 2 for grammar. But if you have more errors, then you get 1. And if you have lots of errors, or if your sentence structures are kind of very basic, then you get 0. Now, you don't need to write overly complex sentences for you to do well, but it should be good enough. It should be diverse enough for you, such that you're conveying what you want to say in a clear manner. Okay. And again, here, if you use a template, you can minimize the chances of you making grammar mistakes. Some tools that you can use, there's this app called Grammarly that you can use to kind of detect basic errors in your sentences. But generally, unless you get a third person kind of doing an assessment of your writing, it's very hard for you to self-identify what are the grammar mistakes you're making. And generally, the grammar mistakes are categorized into these categories. So if you can identify which part of the grammar you're kind of struggling with, you can kind of work to resolve it. Now, like I said, in the grand scheme of things, this is maybe your writing is 50% of your scores and grammar is like one small part of the essay. So this maybe contributes to like 1 or 2 marks towards your overall score, or maybe 4 or 5 marks if you're really bad. So you want to avoid spending too much time on this. If you want to take a shortcut, use a template. Cool. The next one, general linguistic range. Now this is where you you can clearly say what you want to say, and you're not restricted in your language. Okay, so it's basically seeing how precisely you are expressing your thoughts. And again, if you have a good template, it takes care of this. Vocabulary range basically shows how broad of a vocabulary do you have. Are you using uh, are you using collocations or words that are frequently used together? Are you using only basic English? Now again, you don't want to use too complicated vocabulary, but you want to use academic type vocabulary. Um, yeah, and you want to avoid using the same vocabulary more than once. Again, if you have a template, you can actually include a lot of diverse vocabulary and take on that point. So out of all the points that we've gone over so far, I think we've gone over 6 or 7. Like apart from the content part, most of the other aspects can be taken care of if you have a really good template. So if you're really struggling with this part, then I highly suggest using a template. Spelling 0 out of 2. This is something that you need to take care of. So you get 2 if you have all words spelled correctly. If you have even one error, you get 1 out of 2, and if you get more than one spelling mistake, you get 0 out of 2. So there's a very small margin for error when it comes to spelling in the exam. So make sure that you're only using words that you can spell, and yeah, do not use, if you're unsure about the spelling of anything, do not use that word. Try to use a synonym instead. There's also a caveat that you need to be consistent in the type of spelling convention that you use. So um, you can either use UK or you can use US. Now, most of the words are spelled the same, but there are a few kind of words that are different. So, for example, in UK English, the word color is spelled using COLOUR, whereas in US English, it's spelled using COLOR. So, if you're using different conventions in the essay, it picks that up as one spelling error. So, try to be consistent in the spelling that you're using. And there's a link here that you can click, which kind of goes over what are the differences in the spelling. So it's worth to quickly just visit that, and if there are any issues, you can kind of spot them quickly. Cool. So that is the scoring parameters for the essay part, and that covers this section. In the next part, we're going to go over the essay structure, and I'm going to show you the different parts of an essay, and I'm going to go on an example and show you how it's done. So see you guys in the next video.